everyone, good evening. I'm Serene. Welcome to SME Virtual Series brought to you by People 4.0, a community for SME that are passionate about IR 4.0 and business digitalization. Is everyone having a good day today? Yes, we are going to discuss a very important topic today. I hope everyone is eager and excited to know what our guest speaker will share with us this evening. Also, is this your first time joining us today? Let's do a poll now. Okay? Yes. Comment yes and hi, say hi to us in the comment section. Okay, for the first timer, SME Virtual Series is actually hosted every month. In this series, we discuss with experts on various matters regarding business digitalization. And at the end of each session, we will extend an exclusive invite to join our community. It is a platform to promote your products and services, as well as network with other SME entrepreneurs. Yes. Today, we have something special for our viewers. Yes, this machine learning box is specially configured and designed to run AI predictive analytics for SME in an easy, practical, and efficient way. And we are giving away one box in this episode. All you need to do is share our sessions today to your Facebook page for a chance to win. So please share it now on your Facebook and stay until the end to know who are the winner. Today, we are going to talk about people digitalization. I'm sure many of you are wondering what is this all about. So, without further ado, let's get started. Enjoy the show. Imagine doing business every day without paper, robots efficiently assembling your products, and parts being produced instantly from an automated printer. Won't this put you above your competitors in your industry? That's what Industry 4.0 enables for us. New avenue for growth and success with digital tools and applications. Hi, I'm Serene and welcome to People 4.0, a community of digital leaders and people who are passionate to support every SME entrepreneur's journey into digital transformation. In this community, we will guide you to transform your business digitally, making it more profitable without spending much time and money. By being part of this community, you gain access to insightful activities, webinars, and the opportunity to network with other like-minded people and leaders. Sign up today for a chance to enjoy one-day free training session worth 500 ringgit and other benefits. And catch our monthly webinars to gain insights on digital transformation and how it can change the way you grow your business. Optimize your business productivity and efficiency with People 4.0 today.
Hello everyone, how are you tonight? Okay, my name is Adam. Welcome to People 4.0 SME Virtual Series. I hope everybody had a great day today. Right, today's topic title is Digital People. It's a very interesting topic and it's very close to my heart too. In the past, we used to make a call to taxi station to order a taxi. And now, with just a button on our phone, then we can get a taxi already. We used to bring out our cash whenever we go anywhere to buy stuff, but now you just need to pay your your payment through e-wallet here. So what does that mean? So it means that we cannot live without technology. Same things that also mean that maybe of us actually can't live without a phone too. Okay, since 2018, business digital adoptions has increased in Malaysia. in this region, Malaysia has the highest percentage of digital consumer, 83%, according to a study by Facebook and Buns and Co. Okay, with that many digital consumer, hey, SME here, SME need to actually digitalize their product and businesses itself to make more profit. Okay, the only one that actually can make it possible is actually the workforce here. In today's episode, our special guest today will talk about digitalizing the people, one of the very important element in this era, digitalization here. He is actually the co-founder and CEO of Fave Group, a fast-growing fintech platform in Southeast Asia. He's also involved in various non-profit organizations such as the Worldwide Malaysia Student Network and also Young Corporate Malaysia. So let us actually welcome Mr. Yeoh Chen Chow. Hi, Mr. Yeoh, or I shall call you CC as well, right? Okay.
Yes.
CC, okay, welcome to the show. Let us actually move on with our first question here, all right? Okay, can you share a little bit about your background, your experience, and how you got involved in this tech industry, CC?
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I think congratulations to Peoplelogy for organizing this, and thanks to Alan for moderating these sessions. Yeah, so I think for myself, I came from a small town, Nibung Tebau, right? So, and to be honest, in my growing up phase, I was actually not technology savvy, right? And I actually was lucky to get a chance to further my studies in US, and that was actually my first flight of my life at the age of 20. Fast forward, when I graduated, I came back. I started my career in consulting. So I was in Accenture first, and then I joined JobStreet, right? So as a product manager. So that was, I think, my first touch a bit with the technology. By the time JobStreet is no longer that small size, right? There's already more than 500 employees and whatnot. After that, when Joel and Kylie sold off Groupon to Group Small to Groupon, that's when I joined them in this Groupon journey in 2011. So I was there for 4 years, started in Malaysia, eventually managing operations for Asia Pacific. In 2015, YOLO, you only live once, decided to quit everything. And together with Joel, we went on this journey to build on this startup journey. So that was the last 5.5 years. First as a K-Fit in 2015, and eventually in late 2016, we started Fave. And during that process as well, in 2016, 2017, we acquired a subsidiary of Groupon in Southeast Asia, and then turning into Fave and building that on. So I think that's sort of a rough high level on it. And I think technology is something that I think makes our life make our life transform, right? So I think of it, I think just like Alan shared a bit about how we used to do order taxi and everything, things have shifted. And I think as a consumer, as a business, all these things will shift. And I think as we go on this technology aspects is that how do we make things easier, cheaper, better, and faster? Right? So as we think on it, whether as an individual or whether as a company, is in every process, every aspect that we try to do, is how do we make that easier, faster, cheaper, better? And as we go on that, that's basically the digitalization and technology can come on board, right? So I'm happy to discuss further during the next 1 hour with everyone.
All right, great. Cheaper, faster, and
easier
a lot more.
And better.
All right, okay. So that's actually technology here. Let's talk a little bit about your experience as an entrepreneur here. In your opinion as an entrepreneur, what does people digitalization mean to you then?
Yeah, I think for a startup, especially where we don't have any other asset, people are our asset, right? So I think as we work with the team, it's the team that is really going to get us from where we were to where we're going to be. And making all the transformation basically is the people, right? So I think every day we work closely with the team, and I think how well people can perform, how well people can deliver, and I think that's where the digitalization of people and the process, tools, and every aspect will basically transform the productivity. I think as the business grew double, triple, 10x, how do eventually we couldn't get people to work longer hours, right? Because there's a limitation of it. So what is the key is that how do you enable people, all the processes to happen? And I think that's, to me, would be key. So example, take like payments. to make payments to, let's say for us, every week we make payments to tens of thousands of businesses. Traditionally, people will be having many people in the finance and one by one calculate and then pay for it, right? That process will take a whole lot. And today, we have tens of thousands of merchants, and our entire finance team regionally is less than 10 people, because the entire process of that whole payment and everything is digitalized, and hence everything is automated and made it through. And this is a final human checking. And when I say finance team, for us, close to 10 people in an organization of 300 plus people, the 10 people doing not just about payment, right? It's every aspect from accounting to risk to financial planning, accounting, and every aspect, right? So it's end to end of it. So I think that's where technology digitalization, because if I were to imagine 10, 20 years ago to do this, likely we may need 100 people to do this aspect, right?
All right, okay. Then let's talk a little bit about your company, the Fave Group here. Would you say that Fave is actually a completely digitalized company?
I would say they're very close to complete. Ideally, it would be perfectly complete, but I would say that there's still definitely a little bit here and there, right? And I think this COVID actually helps to drive that digital process a lot more, right? So example, like in a contract with our businesses, every day we work with businesses, restaurant, retailers to sign a contract. Pre-COVID, I would say it's 50-60% of the contracts are digital contracts. There's still 40-50% of businesses that say, no, I still want to see you. I still want to use a pen to draw my signature, right? With COVID, that process has moved to 100%, right? So I think that's just one of the example, right, of the processes that would be with COVID will take it towards fully. Right? Let's say example claims for employee claims. Yeah. Previously, I would say a mixture. There are some digital, there are some that were still people submitting paper printout, right, and stick, right? But I think with COVID as well, that has moved to 100%. So I think I would say that in many organizations, many companies, I think on the March 18, when the government did the first round of lockdown, I think that shifted a lot of digitalization, right? I think many companies we have seen the digitalization level today is way higher than pre-COVID, right? And that's where if a normal cost that would take 3 years, 5 years, 8 years to make that happen. So I would say that that's definitely a direction. But I think I would say digitalization, don't do it just for the sake of digitalization. If a digital process is slower, more costly, not as good as the traditional process, the traditional process should be the way to go, right? In the end, as we go digitalization, we need to make the process faster for the employee, for our merchant, for our customers, for everything. Cheaper for us as well. So digitalization, yes, there might be a one-off cost, but over a period of time, dividing over the processes, it needs to reduce the cost, or else it will not bring the right value of it. So I think as we go on it, we basically need to think on it and how do we scale across based on that.
Yep, good things. How do we scale? All right, that is actually a very important element in any businesses as well. Okay, so what makes you digitalize Fave in the first place? Was it because of consumer tech usages that has picked up, or actually you changed their demand?
Yeah, I think we started as a digital company, right? So back then, 5 years ago, when we go in, and even prior to that, when we were Groupon, we were digital first, technology first company. So I think our mindset has always started from technology digital. So we don't really come from a traditional and shifting, right? So of course, so from us being a technology native is a lot more easier because we started a lot of process from there. I think if you think on the companies, I'm quite sure many of the audience may have come from a company where you have been operating for tens of years in traditional. Then the question will be, what makes it justifiable for you to transform to digitize? And I would say that think of your pain point, right? So look at, don't digitize everything, but start from which area is a pain point today. That process takes too much time of your employees' time. That takes too much hassle out of your things. That one costs too much of it. Those should be where you start digitalization, because that's where you get the ROI the easiest and fastest, right? So I think start from there and then get people to adapt to it. And because for us, for Fave as well, we work with a lot of businesses. So example back then with Sicily, right? We work with them to digitize a lot of their loyalty for customers and stuff, right? And I think when we first worked with them, one of the things that Tara, who is their CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, said was that the process of working with us helped their staff think digital. and then move on digitalization. So a lot of time the digitalization also has a ripple effect as people try to use digital. And today I would say that a lot of the people, and I think even the older generation today, on the personal life, they have gone digital. People today know how to call a Grab. People know how to order food. People know actually how to use Facebook. There's no one teach people how to use Facebook, right? But I think today everyone knows how to do it. People know how to use WhatsApp, right? There's no, even Zoom, right? Once MCO started today, everyone know how to do this, right? So I think people actually are adaptable and learning. And I think today now is for businesses is how do you catch up? And I think one big difference as well is that today, from a consumer standpoint or even businesses standpoint, when they look at it, they no longer compare against the digitalization effort based on your same industry, but based on the best in class that they are using in their lives, right? So if they have people have exposed to various apps, various technology, and knowing this can be done this way. So as people now today go on other industry, they will be looking at benchmark. That's why I think today, if you look at banks, they are under a lot of pressure to digitize a lot of things. Because today, if they are not, people will say, hey, how come the banking process is still old school, right? And I think that's where things need to move forward.
All right, okay. Okay, Sisi, let us talk a little bit more about the SME challenges here. Okay, I think when we talk about digitalization here, when we talk about bringing changes through digitalization here, there are always a lot of objection, right? Apart from refusing to move from their own comfort zone, what other objection that entrepreneurs usually come across? Have you ever chat with your friend that wow, digitalization is actually very challenging, so they are really reluctant to come out of their comfort zone here? Maybe you can share some.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, so example, I think that one of the things is that, so let's say example, in our dealing with restaurant retailers, many of them are traditional business, right?
I see.
So I think one of it is that the common challenges, objection that they face is, I have tried many things before, or I have tried a couple of things before, and it failed. So maybe 5 years ago, some vendors go to them and say, hey, install these tools, this upgrade, pay this amount of money, and you will get this. And some of those end up failing or didn't bring any outcome. And hence there is a phobia of anything technology, anything it failed, right? And people are scared that, oh, this thing may turn out bad, right? So, and hence that was one of the things that people have it, right? So I think today is how do you cross that boundary so that people know that it's comfortable to try. I think the second one, of course, is that also people are comfortable with status quo. I think pre-COVID, I think we have met businesses that say, no, I've done this business for the last 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, and it's fine. I don't need to change. And during COVID period, we have so many of these businesses that have said no to us, came back to knock another door. And the only thing is because on March 18, if they don't digitize, they may actually couldn't run their business. Today, a lot more people going out without carrying their wallet. I myself have only gone to ATM one time since March. And I've known of people that haven't gone to ATM since March, right? So today you can actually go out without just carrying your phone. And maybe one question that everyone asks here is that if you today can only go back and bring one thing, you have left your house, you miss out your wallet, or you miss out your phone. You can only go back and bring one thing. Which one will you bring? And I would say many people would be phone, right? And I think that's where today everything go on there. And I think even like laptops and phone. Today, more and more people doing work on phone rather than laptop. More and more people doing work on messaging, whether WhatsApp, Facebook versus emails, right? I hardly do any emails anymore. So I think that things have already moved forward. And even like the company called Facebook don't do email among their employees, right? So I think that's where a lot of the transformation will move. And I think is that people will, and I think one other aspect that drive people to try is actually peer groups. Let's say today, thinking of using Fave, we see a big group of consumers age 50, 60, 70 that are using us. And this group actually, once they start go on it, they're actually the most loyal customer. They have purchasing power. They don't really switch. So to them, once they get on it, and a lot of time I see a lot of housewives actually became our best proponent because once they know how to use these bragging rights, they'll go around and tell all their friends and show off and say, see, I know how to pay digital. You don't know? Let me teach you. So we actually see the older generations became a bigger push, because for these people, learning something new is tough. So once they learn something, it's something that they will basically tell their peers. Whereas for someone at age 25, it's expected for them to know. And if they don't know, it's shameful for them not to know. So, and hence, they won't really go and tell everyone. They will just use it, right? As if it's expected. So that's one aspect that we see. And this actually goes across markets.
All right, okay. There's actually a remark saying that cost-effective is an important element to pursue digitalization in the long run. I think CC will agree with me, right?
Yeah.
Let's come back a little bit on the SME again. I'm sure SME is the one that actually is reluctant to talk about digitalization here, because there's always a concern. Performance and productivity tracking are always a big concern for employer when it comes to people digitalization, because they are not present physically. How can employer measure productivity and performance remotely? I'm sure these are the questions that always posed by a lot of SME here. Sissy, would you mind share with me your thought?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that actually, in terms of, let's say you talk about digitalization and technology, right? It actually enables tracking a lot more, because everything that you do digital, it leaves a footprint. So think of it, right? Right now, you want to work on a press release, right? So back then, you may actually draft a version. Maybe you work on a few days before you send it that version. Today, all the work is now basically open a Google Docs, and everyone comment, and real time you edit on it, right? Let's say example, collaborations have become so, and you actually know this person A actually did 6 comments, person B responds to the comments after 2 hours 45 minutes, and everything. So everything is actually tracked, and it's actually even more transparent. What it differs is maybe back then people need to be physically sitting in office, whereas now people will be, instead of tracking the input where people are there present, now people are tracking on the output. What kind of things to do, right? And let's say for sales, eventually it's still, whether before or today, it's going to be what's the sales outcome, right? How many businesses they meet, pitch to, eventually how many convert, right? And how many leads that they generate. So a lot of those are results matrix, right? And today what this enables is getting a lot of people now today to see the progress rather than see the final outcome. So people spend less time preparing for one big presentation, right? Whereas I think in the good old days, people would work it offline, sit in office, spend some time working together. So I think even like accounting, back then in the pre-digital days, I will get to review the account from the employees when the account is done. Today, every entry that they do, I'm at real time be able to comment on it. Hey, why is this like that? So by the time when they submit to me, 98% of the issues is already cleared. And I will know clearly how's the progress, right? Where is it, where it's not? So I think that enables a lot more transparency, a lot more tracking. And I think different companies use different ways as well, right? To do the tracking. And I know a lot of technology companies, they use a lot of the tracker as well to see, right? Whether Gantt chart, whether Jira, whether various tools to track. And I think the conversation as well, let's say example for technology company as well, people use Slack, right? It's like WhatsApp, except that it's basically based on topics, right? And people can choose which topic to go in. So each of those enable that, right? So I think for companies is that look at which aspects you want to look at. And I think a key is aligning the goals, aligning what is key to be tracked at. Because every business, every aspect will be different. But I think that the speed of the expectation is also different. So think of it like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. When customers reach out to you, people expect a response maybe 3 days, 1 week. Today, with a lot of businesses going on WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, right? The response time expected is in minutes or seconds, no longer in hours, right? So let's say today, I'm quite sure you all have the experience where you message someone, your colleagues or something. After 20 minutes, you don't see them respond, you think something is wrong with that person, right? Whereas previously, if someone reply you your letter, you write a letter, physical letter, you mail it over, you get a response after 2 days, you say, oh, fantastic, great job, right? So I think a lot of that expectation has also shifted, and your customer expectation would have shifted. Your employee expectation will also have shifted. So I think that's sort of how it will move. And the cost ratio has also moved, right? Face-to-face is always a lot more costly.
Yep.
right? Let's say back then you had to do a contract, you had to fly over or you had to drive over. The cost is a lot more higher. And then you have a lot of idle time because of transportation. Now you can do with Zoom and all this thing, you know that you can do 20 calls a day versus back then you can do 3 or 4 or 5 face-to-face meetings.
All right. Cici, let's just pause for a while. There's actually a question from the viewer here. There's actually a question from Edward here. How do you handle unscrupulous seller online that trick consumer? There's no real person or phone number to contact.
Okay, yeah, good question. So I think, Edward, for key in terms of online is that I think online or offline, there are unscrupulous people, right? So I think the key is that going on platform that is trustworthy, that will be key, right? And I think a lot of platform as well, there is review ratings. So I think whether you go to Lazada, Shopee, or Fave, or any of those platforms, there'll be review ratings. So let's say example, even on take Lazada, Shopee, there are millions of sellers, but you will see that this seller has 58 ratings, reviews, and each of the reviews average is 4.8 versus another seller, their rating is only 3. So I think a lot of it is going to enable reputation. For Fave, we can clearly see that businesses that treat their customer well, their sales will go up. Businesses that treat the customer poorly, because their rating is poor, customer will make their choice, and then the sales will go down. So that in this transformation enable that. So I think I would say that is leverage on that. Whereas back then in traditional world, you walk into a shop or maybe a store, maybe it's physically they are there, right? But think of it now, you go outstation. Is it easier to get cheated that way or not? And maybe an example that we can look at is, let's say take taxi. Yep. Back then, when you flag a taxi, the probability of you getting cheated is actually much higher than today. You use an app. Let's say take Grab to order a Grab car. Probability of you getting cheated by that car driver is way, way lower than before. But of course, today, because with technology, anything that people got cheated got viral through social media easily, right?
Yeah.
So back then, even think of crime and everything. Back then, you only know your friend got robbed because you meet your friend, or it hit to the main newspaper headlines, right? The newspaper. Today, any of us became a news channel. One of our friend got robbed. The 5 people put it up. Over minutes, it can get viral and shared across, right? If you meet an unscrupulous business, I'm quite sure you have seen many of your friends, contacts have put it on social media. Over a very short period of time, the amount of comments go on it will hit the business badly and the shop will get empty. So people don't really dare to cheat these days in the digital age because people are a lot more savvy. But having said that, there's a lot of people that are trying different ways to cheat. That's why you see a lot of those scam phone calls. There's a lot of scam messages going around. So I think it's pick the choices and go with the trustworthy ones.
All right. Okay. Good. Let's come back a little bit more about the SME concern here. I remember during the MCO time, a lot of bosses, they always confess that during MCO work from home, it's even more stress than actually working in the office. Okay, so what would be the best way to actually ensure the employee and the employer will have a work-life balance when they actually work on digitalisation platform? Okay, Cici?
Yeah, so I think the concept is similar, right? So think of it, right? They previously, right? So your boss some company, their boss may be saying, okay, let's do a meeting on Friday, 8 p.m., right? Or maybe some people may be calling the employees on Friday, 9 p.m. It's the same today versus like people sending a WhatsApp message to you on Friday, 8 p.m. asking about work. So I think the medium and the ways may have shifted. Maybe the expectation may have shifted, but I think there are still people who are doing that, right? And I think the key is set the right expectation from both employer and employee, right? And I think that what are the things that is considered urgent? What are the things that's not considered urgent? So let's say example, sometimes on night when I send a message to my team, if it's not urgent, I'm just going to put it there, not urgent, can reply tomorrow. Because a lot of time when we just send out just because we want to just off our mind, right?
All right.
So I think that's one of the aspects. And I think be cognizant across, let's say that certain issues maybe it's better to solve via just a quick call. right? Versus a quick Zoom call just to sort it out versus 200 messages from everyone just debating over it over chat group, right? So I think a lot of it is that, and I think each individual need to own your life, just like before and just like in the future, right? So that back then you want to take leave, your boss said cannot. As we're moving forward in this digital world, the same thing, right? And different company may have a different balancing act, right? So I think like, let's say example, certain company maybe it's fine. Let's say like example, our employees, one of our employees decided to work in Europe during this period.
I see.
Right? We say, okay, go ahead, right? And then the expectation is just that get things done. So our employee, they are different people at different parts of the country. I know there are employee that since March has gone back to Penang and haven't come back to KL. Okay. And their work is all from here. But it's just that now with digital, as long as you have good internet, you are on time, we actually don't care. All right. So I think there are more companies that are moving on that aspects, right? So I think in the end, it's responsibility from both employer and employee, right? And actually on this aspects as well, we did quite a lot of mental health related talks and resources for the team as well.
All right.
So like let's say every day we actually have a meditation session, yoga session, virtual HIIT session.
I see. Okay.
Because with technology, you can do a lot of virtual aspects, right? And I think that helps to pull everyone together.
All right. There's actually a question saying, is there a one-size-fits-all solution that can address all this common concern?
So I think that maybe the one size fits all on the common concerns. The common concerns are talking about like these issues of like work-life balance and everything, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I think there is no perfect. In the end, I think is that within the companies, because different company has a different stage as well, and I know different company has a different philosophy as well, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think in the end, is the expectation set right, right? So between the employee, employer, between managers and the team members. In the end, if people expectation is set right, so let's say example, there's a very crunch weekend that you need to solve it. There's a big launch that need to do it. If every expectation set right, that few days people actually will understand and do it. But if it's like every day, then it will not be right. So then different people may not be unless a certain role before the person joining, the person is aligned. They're expected that this role will be like that, right? And it's in the end, I think it's a willing buyer, willing seller, or willing employer, willing employee kind of thing. So I think it's set the tone. And today, I would say that both employer and employee have choice, especially employee, right?
Yep.
I think today, especially the younger generations, if they don't like the practice in the company, they will quit and they move on. And people do that, right? So versus previously, people work for the same job. I think our parent generation maybe work for the same job for 20, 30, 40 years. Yep. Today, a lot of Gen Y, Gen Z may be working for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years in a company. And people move on. So I think people have, and today, the work-life balance, you can actually go to Glassdoor and read the reviews of companies and everything, right? So I think social media as well, with LinkedIn, you can actually find out a lot more. So I think in the end, companies also need to adapt to attract a certain kind of talent. So I think that's sort of balancing that. Of course, for SME, I think there's still definitely a challenge because in the end is that for the company, there are certain expectations and with the employee. So we just need to have a lot more heart-to-heart talk and a lot more setting expectation to align.
Okay, good. Let's come back to the people, digital people here. I'm sure recently there's a lot of article saying that, oh, because of this digitalization, it will replace a lot of people job. Okay, some people fears of digitalization will replace them and leave them jobless. Okay, expert predict job like customer survey, sales, and some marketing roles were like web publisher. What is your thought on that? So everybody is jobless really.
Yeah, so I think that one thing is that the global trend is that the technology will evolve, digitalization will evolve. Things that needed at certain point in time will evolve. And then unfortunately, that's a reality, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at it in the good old days, petrol station, there's someone that pump petrol for you. Today, everyone's self-service. Good old days in a toll booth, there's someone collecting money. Today, everything is digital, right? You just touch and go yourself, right? So I think things will evolve and then more and more roles will be evolved. So I think what is key is that working through and across and to learn, unlearn and relearn. And I think the companies and individuals both are responsible to keep on evolving that, right? So let's say example, like we have employees that would join us in role A. eventually may be transformed into Roby, Rosie, Rodi.
Yep.
So example, let's say take example Wei Chia, our head of product. She was previously working as an investment analyst in one of the investment company. Then she went to, prior to joining us, then she went to learn programming when she joined us as a software engineer back in 2015. And then from there, she moved from a software engineer to basically product manager and eventually lead a consumer product and now leading our entire product. So that evolution, and we have seen many employees have shifted aspects, right? There's another employee, Aisha, who joined us as an intern, eventually went on to be the city planner, revenue planner, and then eventually went on to be a product manager. So different people actually shifted role across. So I think as an organization and people is how do you evolve, right? And get people. Let's say Indonesia, back then in the good old days, there were people, when I say good old days, a few years ago, there was one guy who is an office boy there. And we said that we don't want an office boy, right? Because the office boy, he was doing the office boy when he was in under Groupon. So when we bought over, we said that, okay, we don't need the office boy. So what we did was our employee actually came together and said, how to reskill him. So he actually learned how to did his first Facebook, first Excel, first Word document, and eventually built through. And over the last few years, he went on to took his first flight, stayed on hotel for first time, travel abroad for first time, and everything. So I think a lot of it that from an office boy, eventually he went on to manage our merchant relationship, right? Partner management. So I think that eventually a lot of this can be done. I think it's the need sincerity from both individual and the companies. One side of it will not work, right? So I think is both sides need to put in effort. If company put in a lot of effort, employee not going to put in, you can't. And I think AirAsia is a good example, right? I think Tony has put in a lot of examples of it, from someone who was carrying baggage to eventually became a pilot. I think recently they did a lot of retraining. I think they did a Red Beat Academy to retrain a lot of the cabin crew pilots into data scientists and everything, right? And so those are among the examples. So I think that in the end and today there are so many resources online to learn for free. So I think it's how do we, and the phone that we all have is actually has more power than the machine that sent the Neil Armstrong to the moon back in 1916 plus, right? 69, I think. So today we all have the power. We have the same Wikipedia and the same Google, just like anyone else in the world. I think in the end is how do we leverage on it?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, that's a good point. See, you brought up the point about training here. Okay, there is actually a question here is some people really look forward to digitalization, but they lack of basic computer skill and digital mindset. Okay, so apart from training, what other ways to address this, Sisi?
Yeah, so I think that the one aspect of it is that whether the person doesn't use any computer or any phone at all in life, or the person actually does. Right? In my earlier example, so let's say if the person can learn how to use WhatsApp and Facebook, the person can learn how to use digital quite conveniently. Right? In the end, it's just in our mindset and build on and pick up some learnings. Right? So I say learning how to Google, and maybe some people need to provide some pointers on it. Right? So let's say like I rarely hear people, hey, I don't know how to use Facebook, right? But Facebook is actually a lot more complex than a lot other tools out there, right? Zoom, right? I think if you think of it, in 2 years ago, someone would say, hey, for people to learn how to do a video call, it sounds like complex. But 1 month after COVID, almost everyone, irrespective of age group, knows how to use Zoom or other kind of groups. Today, people are expert of Zoom, Google Meet, or whatever kind of tools that different companies are using. And people learn up that without going through any formal training. So I would say that the learning of it and the mindset is that a lot of the situation makes us transform. Like COVID is a great example. That transformed a lot of us.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it is that leap of faith and saying that I want to change. So the digital mindset, I think, start from, do you want to change? Is it important for you to change? And if your answer is yes, then it's just question of how to change. And if you're not sure how to do it, just go to Google and type how to build a digital mindset or how to whatever. I think in Google itself, they will come up multiple resources. And I think a lot of it is that we all know how to find out information. And if you really don't know, go to your Facebook or whichever social media and post it there. I need help to learn this thing, I'm sure you will get 10, 20 comments from different people, friends, connects, that will be able to point you to the right direction. So I think in the traditional world, there is a structured training. Today, there's a lot of decentralized learning. And this doesn't mean that training itself, the formal training, is no longer relevant. But I think it's a balancing of it, right? And today, people, those has its place for certain way of structured learning. But I think what people today can learn is YouTube, right? Anything you want to learn, how to, if your phone hangs, how to do it, or how your laptop hang, what to do it with it, just go to YouTube and there'll be enough answers for you, right? So I think there will be a lot of those kind of aspects that people know how to build. And I think today you just need to leap forward, right? Let's say using internet banking. Back then people were scared of it. Today people know how to transfer money. Let's say today someone tell you there is 1,000 ringgit for you to go there and pick up in your bank, and you just need to do step A, step B. Will you know how to do it? I'm quite sure you can. Yeah, so I think you just need to make sure that you don't go into fraud, scam, everything, right? So I think just need to have a few basic understanding of it. And I think that leap of faith could jump through. You just need to believe in it and take steps, and don't be afraid of making mistakes, right?
Yep, good. Okay, good advice there, Sisi. There's actually a couple of questions from the viewer here. First is actually from Zaruf Lan. What is your advice for legacy SME company to start on their digitalization?
Yeah, good point on it. So I think first of all is I think the mindset to shift from knowing that this is a legacy or you want to move forward. So I think saying that you want to move forward is a very important step. And I would say that instead of trying to digitize everything, pick the most problematic area today. That in your traditional process, that aspect is the most problematic and costs you a lot of time, money. It's really costing you money. And from there, zoom in to see how to, using digital technology, to simplify it, to make it easier, better. Right? I think that would be a starting point. So start from a problem. Don't start from a technology. Start from an issues that you try to solve and seeing what is the best way to navigate that and solve that. So that will be the angle on it. Maybe if you want, you can describe a bit on which aspects of it, and then maybe happy to address that as well.
All right, great. There's actually another question, is actually more addressing on Fave. Is what would you say was Fave's biggest challenges when the workforce was being digitalized? Maybe a little bit sharing from your past experience.
Yeah, so I think for us, because we started from digital, right? So we actually didn't really go through a phase of pre-digital to digital on our own team. What we go through pre-digital to digital is more working with our merchants and consumers. And it takes time, right? So, I think COVID was a great helper on it. So let's say example, that back then when we first moving from a paper contract to a digital contract, right? Getting people to say now you can digitally sign a contract. That takes a lot of education. So at the start is maybe bring an iPad, bring a tab to show people and say, okay, now you can sign here. And then after that, gradually getting it to email to people. So I think a lot of it takes step by step to get people to comfortable. And today, a lot of people are very comfortable with digital signatures already. And today, sometimes we say, people actually doesn't want to do physical signature anymore. So that was just one aspect, right? But I think in the end, it's also when you explain the digital to people, is simplify the process, right? And when you do digital, especially the process and aspects, is also keep it simple and make sure that it always takes less time than the traditional process. If traditionally it takes 30 seconds to do something, today in the digital world, it takes 5 minutes, no one will do it. People will always want it simpler and faster. So digital need to simplify it. So example, certain kind of things should be pre-filled, certain kind of things need to be done well, done in place so that it can leak through, right? So that would be key. And I think a lot of time digital is try with one segment. So let's say, example, look at your whole office, right? So let's say maybe instead of doing digitalizing the whole office, is maybe pick one thing, or maybe pick a volunteer of a few people. Start from them. So as whenever we launch a tools as well, we don't launch for every employee as well. We launch for 5 people, get feedback from them, sit next to them, And a lot of time to design digitalization or simplification is actually sit next to the people and see what they're doing and how do you learn to make it faster. And you will learn that they're doing something that's repeatedly. So anything that people do repeatedly, anything that they do that don't need to use their brain that much, and they just need to spend time doing it, those are maybe the first important place to digitize. Because that will replace the repeat work. And people, no one like to do repeat work, right?
Yep.
So I think that will be the one that will move through, right? So I think that would also be, but if any of you have a specific area or aspects that you want me to explain, maybe ways that you can digitize, feel free to just submit the question in on that aspect. Maybe happy to address that.
All right, great. There's actually another question which is also very close to me as well, because my friend been talking about, well, now the education system has changed. All their kids are not disciplined anymore. They cannot study. So Edward got another question here. What is your thought on the current education system that suit digitalization here? I guess many parents start to complain that their kids are not disciplined anymore. They don't wake up on time. Is everything all Zoom class? Any comment on you?
Yeah, so maybe one thing is that now you actually see it in real life, right? Before that, when your kids was in school, when you're at work, your kid paid attention. Maybe it's not. It's just that now your kid is sitting next to you, so now you know that your kid does not paying attention, right? Right. So I think a lot of it is things will change and things will evolve, right? And actually post-COVID, things will move forward as well. And I think recently I attended a talk by Nadim, who is the former founder of Gojek. Gojek was Grab competitor, and he is now the education minister of Indonesia. So Indonesia actually put in someone at mid-30s, run one of the biggest tech company in Indonesia, to become the education minister to digitize everything, right? And in Indonesia, it's quite interesting. The infrastructure was so far behind, and this guy that have built tools across 400 million Indonesians went on and transformed the education. So the like it or not, I think the education system will transform and the process will transform. I think within days or months, right? Yes, there could be hiccups and everything. Today, the kids knows how to use Google Classrooms. The kids actually have a lot of resources globally. And I think that today, learning is no longer sitting there for hours and doing it. Learning is no longer like during our time, go back and do homework. Right? So maybe back then, think of it when I was still a student, and many of you are here, when you're still a student, you need to memorize things. Today, there is no need to memorize. Yep. There's Google out there. You can just Google everything, right? Today, if you learn to be a doctor, you actually don't need to memorize. There's so many technology that help you to identify. And today, you're a lawyer. Maybe back then, you need to memorize whole thick set of things to know that, okay, this article, this aspects of it to go to which law. Today, you don't need, right? Yep. Let's say today in my work, we don't need, because we can leverage on technology too. Let's say back then, we made mental arithmetic. Today, you don't need. The calculator and everything will calculate for you. So the way and the learning and that thing will shift. Back then, maybe even to challenge the notion is, do people need to eventually go to universities? Maybe not. Maybe do even people need to go to 12 years of school? Maybe not, one day. And things will evolve and things will change. So I think that how people learn will shift. Like gaming as a way to learn, that has become a lot more popular. Personalized learning. Back then, think of it in the classroom. A teacher with 40 students. Everyone learn, the teacher teach same thing. I'm quite sure at that time, there are maybe 5 kids there that found it too boring, too slow. And maybe there are 20 kids that found it too fast and couldn't catch up. But the teacher had no choice but to teach everyone at the same pace. But today with digital and technology, every kid can go on their own pace. And I think that with this, let's say in India, there's this company called Byju, BYJU, that basically transform and digitalize the India education system. And today they are worth 10 billion or something US dollar. And they basically bring in digitalization and gamification towards the whole India education. So I can see a lot of this thing will converge and eventually bring across. So in the next 1 to 3 years, you're going to see a lot of educational startups tools will emerge, whether in Malaysia, whether in globally. And that will be the trend. Like over the last 6 months, 8 months, we see so many education startups got lots of funding. Like funding is going in there to transform, digitalize education. The question is just which platform, which way, and how is it, right? So I think that's clear cut. I think eventually it's just that it's not going to, if you think on it, the traditional big name university, Harvard University, Yale University, each year they educate 1,500 students.
All right.
Today, with the technology too, there's no reason that these universities should only educate 1,500 students. They need to be able to educate 1.5 million students, or maybe 1.5 billion people. And that transformation will go through. So think of it, even this session. Back then, likelihood you need to go to a place and then you need to fight for space because they may not enough space. And today with digital, you can learn it on demand, it's recorded, and you can pick up through. And over the think of the last 8 months, how many sessions have you attended? Versus maybe last year, the whole year, or last 5 years, how many sessions have you attended? Because now it's so convenient, so easy, you tend to do a lot more, right?
Yeah. Great sharing, Sisi. Shishi don't just share, Shishi give us a lot of example, a lot of case study that why SME or why we should really digitalize our businesses, right? Okay, and also our people, the most important thing. I remember in 2017, the M-Bank Biz Race, I think Sisi do share a little bit about faith culture, right? So maybe, Sisi, before we end the session, there's actually about 10 to 15 more minutes, right? Maybe you can share with the 120 SME right now on live here, how faith actually cultivate the culture of people. And then we'll wrap up with what is your advice for the SME if they really want to digitalize their people then. Maybe you share with faith culture first.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Alan. Yeah, so I think in terms of faith culture, I think there's no perfect culture, but maybe I will share what is our culture, right? Yeah. So I think one key thing is I think belief in people and belief in culture. So I think that is one key aspects, right? So I think start from there. And I think the culture that you build need to adapt along the way. So let's say with COVID, a lot of things that we traditionally did in the good old days may not be the same way, which we need now to digitalize, right, and transform as well. So let's say, example, in January this year, we brought the whole team from all the regions to Port Dickson, 3 days, 2 nights to do our Growth Summit, right? And 2021 Growth Summit will be digital, right? That will save all the costs, but likelihood will enable us to do a lot more different ways, right? So I think that could be one of the aspects. And I think a lot of it is start from caring. Do you care about the people? I think that will be the culture that goes in. So let's say, example, during COVID, we did pay cut. And I think like the founders, for between myself and Joel, we actually took 0 salary, right? And I think different leaders in the team take different amount of pay cut to go through. So we started the pay cut first at a more senior level. And then as we were able to release and get everyone back to full salary, we released for the employee first, eventually the team leaders, and gradually take time through, right? So I think a lot of it is leadership by example. And I think a lot of the principles are similar, except that I think as you go on digital is looking at it and seeing that, okay, what are the ways that you can do it differently? So let's say example during Raya this thing. Usually previously we had doing a Raya gathering in the office. This year we can't because of MCO. So what we did is actually on a Raya first day, I think 5 p.m., we actually did a Zoom call. And we actually get all employees that who want to join to dial in. And what we did was we actually brought 6 of our employees to do a virtual tour of their home, celebrating Hari Raya. So this employee were actually taking the video and then showing to us, say hi to their dato, should say hi to their siblings, say hi to their cat and whatnot, right? So they're basically going around different part of their home and showing their home, showing the food that they eat, even though we don't get to eat. But they were like, oh, this rendang get us all feel like we want to eat and hungry, right? But that was how our team adapt to get us through. And actually, even nowadays, we actually have virtual breakfast, lunch, dinner, and happy hour for our employee. If you feel like your lunchtime, you have no one to eat lunch, you just dial in, video on, and then you can eat lunch with whoever colleagues that who also face the same problem, right? So we had a daily meditation as well. So every day we have a 15 minutes video on meditation that's sent to all employees. So if you need to meditate, just dial this in, right? So I think they enable a lot of those aspects. So we actually even have a listing of, I think, 20, 30 apps that people involved in mental health, right? Enable that and we actually tell the team that it's okay to be not okay, right? This period, there are a lot of people having a lot more stress. And I think one of the things that we also did to employees, that any of the employee face monetary challenge, let us know. We actually have among the team leaders pull in a bunch of money that any employee that need financial support, we actually lend them at 0% interest. right? So, and that's not the company lending, but individual lending. And so far, I think we have lent to 20 over employees for this cash, right? So it could be 2,000, 10,000, or whatever amount. So basically, no judge basis and basically enable them to go through. So I think a lot of it is start from the actions and going through. Like let's say, example, when we need to do pay cuts and we need to go through all the tough actions, we actually show the team. These are the reasons, these are the situations. And actually, that time we actually told them as well, when our revenue back to 80%, they will get back the full salary. So instead of setting when they'll get back, this is the time frame when we hit 80%. So that could be 2 weeks, could be 1 month, could be 2 months, 3 months. So that was the aspect, right? And I think that is be very transparent. On March 18, our business went down 90%. And so that was one of the things that and the team knows that, and how do we be able to plan to rebound, and when do you get through, right? And recently, our Singapore team just hit a record month, right, in October, right, better than any previous month. So that kind of things is that the team knows that we are not taking advantage of that. Certain things that we do because we need to, and this is the situation, and this is the justification, and these are the other things that we are doing. And during COVID time, at the point we were doing every 1-2 weeks, all hands, no question but answer all the questions, right, through the team. And then as we go through now, back to monthly, every month we went in and go through. Like this morning, we just had another all hands for the team to recap October and share with everyone priority for November. And I think as we go through as well, I think employee want to know directions as well. So I think in June, I still remember when we had, because some employee were at pay cut at that time, we went through some layoff as well, so there were less resources. And I think we basically shared with the team, what are things that we are going to focus and double down, which are things that we're going to be status quo, which are things we're not going to do. And I think be very clear, because I think in the end is during this period is over communicate is better than under communicate. Right? And we are constantly to learn and constantly ask the team what we should start, stop, and continue. So every month our team will let us know how do we adapt. So a lot of time we don't know all, but it's getting the feedback from the team and we tweak. So that maybe I would say a bit on the culture is I think go with what you believe in and listen to the voices of the team. An easy way to just get feedback from the team is just give them to answer 3 questions: what they think that you should start doing, what they think you should stop doing, and what you think you should continue doing. Right, and then get that feedback and moving on. That could be one aspect. And I think on advice to everyone is that I think all of us in our life have gone through multiple changes. COVID is one of the big challenges, but I think all of us looking at it today versus March versus February, I think we all have emerged. I think things may have gotten much worse and there could be a lot of tough time. But I think a lot of it is that we all learn, grow, and adapt to it. Right, and standing in January early this year, none of us would have imagined that we would be spending at home for many weeks, right? Things can't go out, everything. None of us would have imagined that. But all of us have gone through that and survived through that, right? Maybe we're through some multiple pains, maybe multiple aspects that got many years of hard work, got killed off, everything. But what we gain is the learning, the experience, and reflect back and see how have we adapted to it. Right, all of us able to adapt within weeks for different things, right, different degree. And I think it's constantly building on it and stepping on it, right? I think things will change. I think the key part to think of it is post-COVID. Have we leveraged on this opportunity to transform and digitalize? Have we leveraged on this opportunity to really change things that doesn't work before and make it work this time, right? And I think this is a great opportunity to do it. And I think that as we go through that, just like I talked about, our business got affected, but our bottom line has definitely gotten better during this period, because I think that enabled us to really optimize through. And I think that is one of the aspects, right? And it's constantly learn, unlearn, relearn. And I think constantly going on it to pick up learning and great that I think Peopleology to drive this session, People 4.0 SME virtual series. And I think that all these learnings is something that you all can pick through from various parts, and I think support one another. I think each of the SME has areas that we can all learn from each other, and each of the employees as well. Right, we can learn from each other, and I think together. This year is a very tough year. 2020, I know we thought about Vision 2020, wasn't 2020 a long time ago, and this is 2020 that we all go through. But I think we all can go through. You can do it. We all can do it. We just need to be confident on it.
Great sharing, especially on the culture part. I love your culture. I think at Peopleology, there's not as many as Fave. We have about 50 plus of us. We also gone through pain together here. We also got a little bit of pay cut together, starting from Alan Lee as well. And then subsequently, we also do a lot of virtual meetings, Zoom. We have our morning jazz. Maybe something that I learned from actually Fave is maybe we should have a meditation session in our organization here. All right. 3 questions that I learned. What do we need to start doing, stop doing, and continue to do? That is actually a great sharing, Sisi here. All right, Sisi, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Yeoh. I had to call you Mr. Yeoh for the knowledge that you share. I believe all the SME on this Facebook Live have learned a lot on how we should actually digitally transform our people. Okay, so hopefully this session would inspire everyone to digitalize your workforce. So this concludes our topic for tonight. Okay, Serene will now announce the winner of the machine learning box. Till then, I'll see you in the next episode of SME Virtual Series. Thank you and good night.
Yeah, here I have the name of the winner for machine learning box tonight. Is everyone excited? Yes, let's have some drum rolls, please. Okay, and the winner of the machine learning box is Edward Chan. Yes, congratulations, Edward. You just won a box that will enable AI and machine learning in your office. We will get in touch with you shortly via WhatsApp, so do wait for our text. Also, for those who newly joined us today, don't forget to claim your Microsoft Excel training session by joining our closed group. You will also get many other exclusive benefits, such as special pricing for IR 4.0 specialization courses, networking opportunities, and much more. So do click the link below and join our closed group. So that concludes today's episode. Do tell us what you think about today's session in the comment section below. Okay, so do share our Facebook and Instagram pages to your network as well. We constantly update upcoming programs, tips on digitalizing your business, and more insightful content on our social media channels. Thank you once again to our sponsor, Magic, MICCI, New Horizons, MRCA, Common Ground, Work, PCOM, and SME Corp. Till then, I am Serene and this is People 4.0 SME Virtual Series. Thank you and good night.